All right. I think we're rolling.
We're
What's happening,
live.
Kevin? We are live.
Hey, how are you, Dave?
We're live. Good, man. Good to see you. I am so excited to talk to you. I know, well, it's crazy. It's been almost 5 months since I've seen you.
Oh
So,
yeah,
in that time, done a little bit of work.
you've done quite a bit of work.
Yeah, and we'll get to all that. But man, super excited to have you. Thank you so much for doing all this stuff. So, for those of you guys that don't know, first and foremost, welcome. Been doing this is my second kind of podcast or kind of live and calling all my friends and folks in my network and letting you guys have a chance to ask questions and hear stories and just kind of chit chat and BS back and forth. But Kevin Shaw, man, the myth, the legend, editor in chief, Mopar Connection Magazine, the internet's largest Mopar magazine, and the original, we'll call it the original owner of Zombie, the 1975 Super Bee, otherwise known now as the Super Beast. But
I think
man,
that's more fitting with what you've got planned for. That's way better. That's a better fit.
right, right. Well, man, dude, happy to have you, and again, thanks for doing this. So, well, like I
Hundred
said,
percent.
it's been 5 months, and let's spend a minute. We'll chat about the Super Bee here, man. So it's come quite a long ways. I still have so much more work to do on this thing. I feel like I'm making great progress, and I know that I am. But man, I still have so much more work to do on this thing.
My
It's
biggest question for you was, I mean, obviously, my first words when you showed up with the, you know what? I got to say this for I got to say this for your audience, not for you. We knew you were coming, and so we put the car. We had the car stored at one of our staff riders' homes. He has a nice concrete pad. It's a little more level than my house. I live on a real steep hill. My kids had a really hard time learning how to ride bikes around our house.
Mhm.
But we were over at Chris Wozniak's house, and Chris has a Hellcat, a 16 Hellcat, and he's got his 73 CUDA that he drag races. I had brought my Charger out, and we lined up all these cars so that Dave would have something to look at. And as soon as Dave backs that trailer in, he jumps out. He goes, "Hey!" And he walks right past us, and he goes directly to the Super Bee. He doesn't stop and look at any of the cars. He doesn't shake my hand. He just beelines it straight to this car. And I'm like, "You just walked past some pretty cool cars, dude." And he just, now don't get me wrong. He's already given me the money on this thing. He's driven across the country to see this car. I can understand he's excited, but I just kind of laughed because he just like Wile E. Coyote just like shot right past us. It was really funny.
Yeah.
So the first words that I said to Dave, and this is for your audience,
Yeah.
was I'm like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much regret do you have buying this? And he's like, 0. And I'm like, all right, well, who am I to tell you what to love, man? Good for you.
Right.
So I really thought, I'm like, oh, this guy's going to call me in a month or two and be like, what the hell did you sell me? This thing's such a pile of crap. And so far, all the updates I get from Dave, he goes, dude, this is great. Oh, check it out. Oh, this is, he sends me all these updates. But my question to you has always been, have you been caught by surprise by anything? And I think the only thing was when you pulled the rocker.
Yeah, man, nothing much. I mean, you guys had a great start on the car, right? And I know you had it for a bit, and you had some other shops work on it, and you guys already had a really good start on it. And I know it still needed a lot of work, right? It needed
Oh, yeah.
basically tire belly pan, it needed frame rail work, and a lot of stuff on it. But I felt, and not only that, but then I kind of researched and kind of psycho stalked every single article you've ever written on the car, so I've seen who's worked on it, where it's been, the issues
Right.
you've had with it, and nothing really has caught me by surprise. And honestly, a big thank you, because the only pieces of exterior sheet metal I've had to buy is the driver's rocker. I had some friends, Jeremy over at Shade Tree, help me with some fenders, and man, that's about it. Like, I don't
Okay.
think I bought much other exterior metal, so no real surprises yet. but man, still, a lot of work to do, but it's moving faster than most of the builds that I have on the channel. But just mainly because I have, all at least the hard parts here. But man, even yesterday, starting to work on all the US Car Tool goodies. So that upper radiator support brace, we got that in yesterday. And then today, just before we hopped on here, was starting to do some welding on underneath the transmission tunnel and the perimeter frame and all that stuff to fit that big ass 6-speed underneath of it. So it's getting there. It's really close. I'm hoping the next video actually we're able to do basically all the body panels will be on the car. They'll all be fit up. And everything will be looking good, pinned together, screwed together, ready to go. And after that, can weld them in and put it up on the rotisserie and finish the bottom side of the car out.
That'd be fantastic. So, as a way to kind of excuse our incredibly slow progress that we did on the car, I had picked up that I think I showed you the original video when we pulled it out of a lean-to barn. Mopar Nationals is in the city of Hebron, Ohio, and one of our previous editors for the magazine, because Mopar Connection Magazine is an online Mopar enthusiast magazine. We're all former print guys who basically realized no one's buying paper magazines anymore, and so we moved it all online. And was a really great guy named Gavin Wollenberg. His dad is a huge 70 Coronet guy. In fact, if you go to Mopar Nationals and you see a really roached out, kind of skyjacked, primer black 70 Coronet that's got just nothing but license plates for the floors, that's Gavin's dad. And Jeff Wollenberg. And Jeff's a super cool guy. He really is a super cool guy. You can talk to him for hours. Jeff and I were talking with Gavin, and I said, man, that to be honest, I personally love the 69 Coronet. I don't think it's a hard fight between the 69 Charger and the 69 Coronet for the most attractive B bodies ever made, in my opinion. Now, everyone's got a different opinion. That's fine. I get it. But I love the 69 Coronet, and I had one ages ago, and I wanted to go back and build another one. He goes, well, I don't have a 69, but I got a 70. I said, really? And he goes, yeah, it's a real Super Bee. It's a 383 automatic. And I was like, oh, you're going to want a mint. He was like, no, not really. So we jumped in the truck, and we shot over to his property, which was 15 minutes from the Mopar Nationals. And we looked at it, and I thought at the time, I go, this car is really complete. Had a dashboard, steering column, had it had a seat in it, but it was his. And he goes, I'm not selling you the seat. It didn't have a powertrain in it, of course. The 8 3/4 didn't have a center section, so the axles were flip-flopping when it rolled around.
Yeah.
And we came to an agreement. And I was like, okay, this is all right. Here we go. And at the time, our tech editor was a guy named Mike Wilkins. Wilkins had a little Toyota pickup truck, but he had a trailer, and we winched it onto the trailer. But the only way to get it out of the barn was we had to tow it out, and we couldn't finagle it with the truck. So Jeff just goes, well, hey, I got a length of chain. We'll just tie it to the back of my Coronet. So we use a 70 Coronet to pull a 70 Super Bee out of the barn, which was hilarious. And we drag it out, and we couldn't use the rims that he gave us. We had to borrow some old steel wheels, and we put it up on the trailer. And the minute I brought it home, I realized, like, oh, this car needs a lot more metal than I could originally assess. I'm a terrible judge of character. This is terrible. And unfortunately, I originally wanted to quote unquote roadkill the car. I had a 440 I could throw together. I was going to do a general mayhem, sort of slap it together and run it. But like you said, frame rails were a little sketch. There was nothing holding the car together. We started discovering that like the V brace was cut out of it, and the inner structure for the windows were cut out of the car. And I'm like, what history does this car have? And we started asking around, and it suddenly made a lot more sense that this might have been a running car. This might have been I say running, but it wasn't moonshine. These guys were running across state lines.
Right.
And so we tried to burn the floor in, and I had Tony DeFeo, because I'd known Tony for years, and Tony came out and he goes, "I'll do it," and I'm like, "Oh, okay," and that did not go well, as you know. Yeah, unfortunately, Dave's been able to see evidence of all of our previous sins, but so that car kind of got put on the back burner because we had so many other projects for the magazine. So we got in contact with David Chamberlain of All Classics Restorations out in Statesville, North Carolina, and he was like, "Hand it over." I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Hand it over." So we handed the car over to him, and unfortunately, he would make like big jumps of progress. Of course, he was tearing so much of the car down. And he would make progress, and then unfortunately, like it was like a bad movie. He had deaths in the family, and he had financial problems, and he had customers back out, and he had all this, and then he was like, "Hey, I got to basically raise my grandkids while my daughter's working," and so life absolutely got in the way. And I said, "Dude, you're doing me a solid. Put it on the back burner. It's cool." And then I realized after a while, I'm like, nothing's happening with this car. But I'll tell you this, and this is the joy of working with magazines, in the magazine business, is that it's a lot of talk and a little bit of payout. And back in, I want to say 2021? It must have been 21. Around 2021, my relationship with Mopar graduates, and I start participating with the Direct Connection catalog through the magazine. And I get in with those guys and licensing and all this stuff, and they say, "Hey, we've got a really great shop we'd love you to work with, and they want to build a car together, and we want to showcase our crate motor program. We'd love to put a elephant in a car." And I was like, "Whoa, okay. That's awesome." And they're like, "Well, we want to put a elephant in your Charger." And I said, "No." Like, why? I'm like, 69 Charger. I mean, I bought my 69 Charger on my 22nd birthday. I'm 47 now.
The Brazen
car. What's that? The Brazen, yeah. And that car, I literally built that car with, and I wish I could pull out I have a manila folder, but I have all the notes that Mike and Dick Landy used to build their super stock AH 68 Charger that ran 1049 in the quarter. And I have all the information, and I got that because I worked at Mopar Muscle forever ago, and I just was able to gather up all this stuff, and so I'm kind of building my car, even though it doesn't look it, to be very similar to Dick Landy's car, and I'm piecing together a Hemi. And in fact, I've got a lead finally I have a lead on a Cross Ram, and yada, yada, yada. So I had a plan for the Charger, and I was never going to deviate from that. But the big thing was I was not going to put a third-gen Hemi in that car. So I said, "Hey, I've got a 70 Super B." And the guys at Direct Connection literally go, "I don't know what a 70 Super B looks like."
Oh, damn.
All right. And that was the beginning of my education, that there's a lot of people at Mopar who do not know Mopar. And so I was like, well, let's start from square one. And here we go. And so I showed them the car and showed them the progress. The shop that was kind of earmarked to do the car said, "Dude, no worries. We got it. Bring it out." I said, "Okay." So I dragged the car out to Oklahoma, and it's there for a year, and they don't touch it. I think they moved it once. And at the same time, they were the guys building those carbon fiber 70 Chargers that you saw like at Mecum And
Yep.
you know, they're $400,000 cars, just ridiculous cars. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they were beautiful. I got to we did a video driving the purple 70 that was half steel, half carbon fiber. It was like a whole carbon fiber doors, carbon fiber front clip, had a elephant in it, and no, it just had a standard red eye in it, if I'm not mistaken. But we went out and drove the car, and I was like, holy crap, this thing's amazing. So it was a really neat car. And unfortunately, the money that people were spending during COVID dried up. And all of a sudden, nobody wanted a $400,000 carbon fiber 70 Charger. And they were stuck with their pants down. And sadly, the business went under. And I was heartbroken because the guys who ran it were really cool dudes. And they split apart. One shop is doing like Mustangs, and the other one moved to Texas, and it was unfortunate for everybody. So they hit me up last Thanksgiving, and they're like, "You need to come and get this car this weekend." And I'm like,
in Oklahoma.
yeah, in Oklahoma. I'm in Nashville.
Yeah.
So, and it was quite literally the day before Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving's a big holiday for my wife's family. The whole family comes together, and I'm like, I gotta eat, I gotta load up my trailer, and then I gotta blow out of here as fast as I humanly can. And sure enough, we had Thanksgiving dinner, and everyone's like, "Oh, so what are you guys doing for the weekend?" I'm like, "I'm cannonball running into Oklahoma." And sure enough, Monday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, they forklift the car onto my trailer, and they were like, "Peace out, dude." I mean, we didn't even talk for 10 minutes. It was peace. It was just that fast.
And they didn't even the whole time they had it.
No, they really didn't touch the car at all.
Wow.
They really didn't touch the car at all. But again, they were going through financial straits, and they were having all of this happen. So I don't blame them. But it was just a no-go. So what's funny is the video that you saw where I'm standing going like, I don't want to sell this car to sell this car. I want to make sure this car ends up in someone's hands who loves it. I filmed that 2 blocks away from the shop.
No kidding.
I literally drove out of the shop, pulled in front of an old grain silo in, was it Yukon, Oklahoma? And I, with my phone, just my stupid cell phone, went like this. "Hey, everyone." You know, and I mean, I knew I didn't have the love for the car, and it was like, I just got to get this thing off my plate.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew it was going to take a ton of work, and it had to go into someone's hands who loves these cars. So I put the video out, and then I drive 15 minutes to go get a famous Oklahoma Ungenburger, and then I drove home. And I think
that right there, I think the video maybe had been out a day or two.
Yeah, because you blew up my Instagram.
Oh, dude, I damn near called your mom. Like I was calling everybody that I possibly could, emailing you. I actually had a guy who follows the channel and I try every single video I put out. I always try to comment back to everybody, like answer every question. Good. Or if people have feedback, or even the haters, I love commenting back to them too. Great. And so I had somebody. His username is like Dodge Doc 11 or Dodge Doc 1. He sent me a message and he said, "Hey, you should check out Kevin Shaw's Super Bee." And then I realized that he put the same comment on your video that said, funny. "Hey, you should send that to Rust Bucket Restos." And then, so I watched the video, and like I couldn't even get through 2 minutes of the video. I was like, "Oh my god, I gotta get this thing. We have to figure this out." And so I think from like my personal Instagram account started blowing you up, and then I started blowing you up from my Rust Bucket one, and then sending emails, and I was like, "Dude, I have to get this damn thing. Like, we have to figure this out. Like, is it still available? Please, please, please." And then yeah, you commented back, or I think you shot me an email or something and said, "Yep, we'll figure it out." And man, we didn't waste any time. I think I didn't have the kids that week, so we loaded up the trailer and we literally took off. And
Yeah.
I needed to go out anyways to go pick up that 500 stroker from Mopar Joe in Arkansas. And so it's like, man, we're going to make a big road trip out of this. And so I just bought my truck, hooked up the trailer, and then, yeah, drove from here, bombed it to like Omaha the first day, drove down to Arkansas to see Joe. We hung out with him for a day or two, picked up the engine. And then, yeah, we ran straight up to your place. And yeah, I mean, wasted no time, back straight in the driveway. And I do remember, I mean, walking up, of course, shaking your hand, and you actually have the video. Your video actually shows when I arrived, and like you're right, I do kind of just walk by. But
Yeah. Hey,
your
that's fine.
your charger, dude, is so freaking nice. And I don't know if I mean, the videos I don't think do it justice. It's like crazy nice car.
Oh,
And then seeing your buddy Waff Racing over there, and his cars, he's got the CUDA and that satellite and different stuff. But man, when I saw those the front bumpers of the 70B sitting there, I'm like, oh my god, we got to get this. Well, that, and then also after we picked it up, I drove another 8 or 9 hours, I think, that night to go surprise family that was up in Michigan. So
right.
like we were trying to get in and out as quick as possible. But man,
I
dude,
get
like,
that. Yeah. We
people,
were just laughing. I think Chris and I were having more fun talking to your girlfriend than it's like, so like, how single-minded has this guy been the whole time? She's like, oh my God, I'm so glad we're getting this thing done. It's like, oh, he won't shut up about this stupid car. I don't know what the big deal is about. I'm like, whatever, it's cool, man. Get it out of here.
oh man, I know she's a trooper, and was an awesome co-pilot. And no, it's been great since we had it, man. And people always ask, like, where do you find these cars? Because I've kind of, especially over the last few years, moved to like almost all Mopar stuff. And man, I could tell you every single car I feel like has found me in some form or fashion. You know what I mean? I'm not out, hitting the pavement and driving around and looking around here or there. I mean, even my charger, right? It's like a 6 a.m, sitting on the pot, refresh my marketplace page, and boom, it's like right there in front of me. To this car, to even the Sadi, to the CUDA, like all this stuff just pops up, man. And when the time's right and the situation's right, you got to jump on them. And I felt like the car had a great story, and it was very well documented. And having the chance to work with you and of course US Car Tool, AMD, QA1, like everybody has helped out so much with this car. And believe it or not, I'm hoping, praying. Well, I already paid for registration, so my ass better be there. But I am planning to be at Holly Moparty in September with this car, running, driving, and racing in the Grand Champion class down there. It is not going to be painted. It's not going to be super nice, but it should be faster than hell, and it'll have all the chassis stiffening, all the suspension, all the goodies on it, and we're gonna beat the shit out of the car, and hopefully it survives. And
I'll tell you this: you bring that car, you can park in my booth. Mopar Connection has a big 30 by 80 booth that we're in the manufacturer midway. All right, we're always parked next to AMD. In fact, they always sandwich me between like Trick Flow, AMD, and like Blackbird Performance. So so I'm in good company. I'm surrounded by a bunch of people.
Okay.
And we always have like 6 or 7 cars in our booth. Last year we had, believe it or not, we actually had Daisy Duke signing autographs in our booth. That was something that we did with AMD, and that was really kind of crazy, because it was like, that's Daisy Duke just hanging out in my booth and talking with my teenage daughter. I'm like, all right. My world just got really weird. But
right.
But we had like Robert Kibbe and his podcast, and he brought his General Lee out, and then I had my charger, and I had Jim Hannon, who helps out on our YouTube channel. He had his satellite there that he just finished doing the engine swap on. In fact, he texted me when you were helping me sign on. He had literally texted me that he's like, So I just destroyed my alternator, and I need to order a new one. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
So
If
but
if there's any way, I'm bringing the Sadie too, and
we
hoping
might be able to squeeze you in, unless Holly wants you parked in their little, content creator YouTuber booth. Then you can
yeah.
kind of split it. But
Okay.
or you can tell me to pound sand and park both your cars in front of Holly.
No, either way, man, I can't wait to get out there, and it's a huge road trip for me, obviously from Utah all the way
Right.
out there. But dude, just looking to
Well,
have fun
hang
and
out Saturday night. I'll tell you what. Saturday night we have a tradition. It's not fancy. Actually, the fancier dinner for my team I take out on Friday night, but Saturday night it's tradition that we all go to Freddy's Frozen Custard and
yeah.
Smash Burgers, and it's the closest this Southern Californian can get to a double double, but it's Smash Burger style, and it's really good.
Yeah.
So on Saturday night, after the they do their big show and all their big stuff, if you want to join us for dinner, there. And I know all your audience is gonna be like, "Well, I want to go." And it's like, "All right, well, go to Mo Party.
Dude,
I'm not buying you dinner, but you can hang out with us."
I'd absolutely love to, man.
Good,
I know,
please do.
just being closer to the West Coast, like we've been doing all the West Coast events, but a lot of the dragon drives and all the cool stuff. I mean, you've taken part in a lot of that. I'd love to start doing that with a couple of these cars, especially this with the Gen 3 Hemi and the 6-speed. Like it's going to be more of a road race, kind of a roadworthy car. I mean, the Sadie, it's got 410s in it, and taking it on the highway is too obnoxious. I already get
What's transmission? Torque Flight?
It's a 727. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a.
You have a
it's
gear vendor?
No, I do not. Mm-mm.
Okay. I'll tell you what. I ran a gear vendor for several years in my Charger.
Okay.
And what's funny is what they don't tell you. First, there's the gear vendor is a phenomenal unit. And it tucks into the factory, the factory trans tunnel without a problem.
Okay.
And it's grenade proof. So for you guys who are considering a gear vendor, do it. Installation's pretty simple. Now, I did a couple tweaks that gear vendor wasn't terribly happy about, and that was number one was the gear vendor comes. The gear vendor comes with a small length of speedo cable that goes into a speedometer gear, similar to what you get on like a motorcycle.
Okay.
And then you take your speedometer cable and you connect it to the other end of that speed sensor. And that speed sensor goes to a control box. And if you put the gear vendor on automatic, it will engage on its own. Like you put the car in drive and it hits 40 miles an hour, it's on. Okay. If you want it to go that way. Some people do, some people don't. But you can put it on manual mode, but manual mode still has certain lockouts. It won't let you split second gear, won't let you split at low speed. And when it comes off, like you're slowing down to a light, it hits hard. Like it goes, huh! And
right.
you pucker a little bit when it doesn't. You're like, God, that just really hit hard.
Yeah.
Well, I had a buddy of mine who we were fighting that controller. We were fighting that controller a lot. It's a little MSD controller, and it turned out that we had some cold solders on the actual circuit board that would, on vibration, it would lose a signal and it would kick off. And it honestly, believe it or not, it took not me and not my buddy, it took a Southern California Volkswagen shop to figure that one out. Because my buddy Jeff called his friend, who's like, he's the smartest guy I know. Let me call him. And he's got this like Volkswagen Beetle shop, and he's on the cell phone going like, dude, we can't figure this out. And he goes, I'll bet you $100 it's a cold solder on the circuit board. And sure enough, we look at the board and you can see a little burn mark, and we're like, okay, he's right.
Wow.
The things you find out with hot rodding. But we got so frustrated with that he goes, screw it, we're putting the gear vendor on a terminal switch on my shifter. So now I could literally pull out of my driveway, drive down the street, and split first gear at 15 miles an hour. Go boom and hit it and go 10 miles an hour. And it was like, oh. But I will tell you this: we put that same gear vendor in Chris Wozniak, who he competitively drag races his CUDA.
Yep.
He's got a 4-stroker with a torque flight with the gear vendor, and I told him, because he's got 410 gear in it, with a same tall tire, 29 and a half, 30-inch tall tire. And I pointed my finger at him and I said, you will find that second gear overdrive is the best gear for driving around town. And he's like, that's a really weird thing to say. I go, you're going to call me and you're going to thank me. And within a week, he goes, I can't believe it. You're absolutely right. Second gear overdrive with 410 gear, cruising around town at 35, 40 miles an hour is just like in the sweet spot around 2,200 RPM, and your motor's singing, and you're like, I could do this all day. This is great. Right. It's just it's one of those things. So a gear vendor, I like gear vendor. Couple things: when you're downshifting or you're disengaging the gear vendor, like coming to a light, you need to throttle up a little bit and then disengage it. Otherwise, it's going to go wham, and it's really going to hit hard. And you're going to think, you're like, oh, dude, I'm going to split a universal joint. You're like, this is bad.
Right. I think it was a recent Dave Freiberger video. It's like a 72 Roadrunner or something like that. I can't remember what it is. It's like the dark kind of purple brown color car that he's got, or I can't remember what it is.
His brown Roadrunner that he's got. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. He's got one in his, and you can see, because he says like, "Oh, I'm about to hit it," and then you can hear it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. You can hear it. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you have a tight or a loose converter. You need to bring it up, because it's a dog gear in there, and that dog gear needs to engage. And if it doesn't, it's gonna find a tooth. Come hell or high water, it's gonna go, I'm engaging this, and it's gonna do it. So and that's why you don't put ATF in your gear vendor. You put like gear oil. You put like 9140 in it. You're putting a real heavy gear oil in it.
I had this comment real quick from Woodrow. 410s, top cruise speed, no more than 50 RPMs, almost $5,000. It sounds like you're missing third gear, dude.
Yeah.
But
he's got a 3800 stall converter too.
Yeah. Yep.
So it sounds like he's on the converter. That's the thing that's scaring me.
Okay.
All right. He's slipping the whole time.
Yeah, mine. I have a 3000 stall in the Sadie, and I'm sitting at like 3,300 at 55.
Okay.
Which is relatively. I mean, it's not the most comfortable after a few minutes.
No.
But it's not. It's definitely not $5,000. I don't feel like it's no. Things are hard. But man,
I will say my first attempt at an overdrive trans was the Silver Sport A41, which is effectively a 4L60E. But they cast their own bell housing so it can adapt to a big block or a small block Mopar.
Mm-hmm.
And I make 700 pound-feet of torque. And I have a 535 stroker with a 4.5-inch stroke with a stroke crank and a 7100 length rod. But it's only a 30 over bore, so I'm really over square. But I ran that 4L60. I drove that thing on Hoosier drag slicks from Nashville to Mopar Nationals in Ohio and back with that 4L60. And I was doing 75 miles an hour, just cruising, 2,400 RPM. And I was like, holy cow. The problem was that I eventually boiled that transmission.
Really?
It needed, not only did it need to run through the radiator, it needed to have ran through an external cooler and all the way back with a deep pan. I needed to have run 7.5 quarts. And that's what I effectively did with this torque flight with the gear vendor. Problem was that every time you engage the torque, or every time you every time I engaged the gear vendor, I was always pulling, if not a full amp, like an amp and a half. And I was like, why is it constantly drawing? And like literally you hit the gear vendor and you'd watch your ammeters go, Urgh! You're like,
Wow.
okay. Why? It shouldn't have to be. It should be on and off, but whatever. Then I had the opportunity, and this was kind of really funny with you speaking of the Charger, was I had the opportunity to put a Tremec in it. And TKX or Tremec wanted to put a TKX in a B body. Silver Sport wanted to do a video for themselves for training, and they also wanted to test fit some stuff. And then they had been our first advertiser for a little over 10 years. And so they hit us up and they said, we want to put a 5-speed in your Charger. And I said, yes, ma'am. I'll have it. And so I spent a week out there and we put the torque flight, or we pulled the torque flight out, put it in the bed of my truck, put the TKX in. And I'll tell you this, it's actually really funny, was that motor never saw over 6,100 RPM except for on the dyno. No, I didn't even do that on the dyno. We never saw over 6,100 RPM. And as soon as I got in that car and I threw the revs up and I dropped the clutch just to do a burnout for the video, I had this poor kid from Silver Sport who was just like there with a GoPro. And I think I'm bright pink. I'm as Irish as it gets. And he was kind of a brown kid. I scared that kid white. I mean, that thing lit up, and I have a big monster tack on the dash, and I hit that shift light. I hit 6,400 RPM, and I'm like, holy crap! Grab second gear, 6,400. I'm like, third gear, and just hazing the tires. And I don't swear a lot on camera, but he got me. They were bleeping me out. I'm like, holy cow! I've never seen this thing snap it like this. And I just laughed. And what's funny is that I run out of, that motor really runs out of steam around 5,800. It doesn't lay over, but I plateau. So really I need to short shift that car in the quarter. And I've been learning that on my own, just drag racing the car. I'm like, I got too much gear and I make way more torque than I do horsepower. I need to shift this thing at 5,600 RPM. And so we start doing the arithmetic, and I'm like, oh, okay, I need to go from 410s to like 354s. And because I'm literally shifting gears in less than 60 feet. My 60 foot, it's, I'm like, crap, I'm already in the red. So
you're either shifting gears or ripping apart your drive lines.
There's that. Yeah, I did tear a beautiful brand new aluminum drive shaft in half. But that's because I
saw a video of them making that, and it was gorgeous. Like,
it's artwork.
Beautiful drive shaft.
Yeah.
And man, it just couldn't put up with the torque, huh? Ended up ripping it right up.
Hey, at least I knew I have traction.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I'm like, hey, the Caltrax and the Mickey Thompsons are working. So
right.
But that's drag racing. Drag racing is all right. What's the next weakest link that we're going to discover? So,
yeah. Mopar Joe told me, he's like, well, once you get this motor in, then we're going to start breaking shit. That's what he said. And I took it for a ride with my mystery 727 that I got out of an older Fury, and the motor had been upgraded. I think it had a repaint and it was not put back together well. The cylinder bores were all tore up. The transmission, I think, had a Rust-Oleum rebuild in the driveway, and it was actually a stock converter painted blue. I thought it was, one of the high dollar B&M converters.
Oh yeah.
Turned out it was a bone stock converter. So I didn't know a whole lot about it, but I did know it leaked a shitload, man. And oh boy, yeah, I'd go through a whole jug of ATF in a damn weekend trying to race it. It was a pig, but man, throwing it behind the 500 stroker, it didn't last at all. And but no, you're right. So what drive shaft did you end up putting back in it? Just like a stock?
Well, okay. So the first time we ran a 2.5-inch aluminum drive shaft from Knoxville Driveline, and they did beautiful work, but they did a stock replacement.
Okay.
And that's what they were asked to build. They did exactly as the customer asked, and I do not give them grief for it. And I drove that train. I mean, I drove that car with that little 2.5-inch drive shaft on Power Tour. And we did what 1,400 miles, and that stupid car drove so nice. I mean, just I'll tell you what, because it's the 0.6, is it 0.67 or 0.68 is the final ratio, and we were doing 75 miles an hour at 2250 on the highway with my Mickey Thompson Super Street, or SSETs or the E Streets, or I can't remember. Everything's SSET, whatever. I think it's Street ET Super Stocks. 290. They're 295, 75 15s. I want to say. Anyway, so I mean, we cruised great, and it was super comfortable and reliable, and didn't have a problem. And so I didn't have a problem with it. But the problem is that drive shaft was just not built to take the abuse that a big torque, heavy B body that weighs 3,000. We just weighed it. It's 3,870 pounds. Of course, it's a pretty full tank of gas when we weighed it. So there's that. And that's not with me in it. That's another 240 something pounds. Anyways, when I snapped the drive shaft, I reached out to Knoxville and said, "Hey guys, I do not blame the product. This is user error. This is on me. Would you guys like to be involved in helping us get back on the road?" And they kind of kindly declined. They were like, we have other customers, and we did you a solid, and you only get one time around for free. Okay, yes sir. So at the same time, a guy that I knew from, which is actually really funny, from my years I used to race jet skis professionally. A guy that I know who races a Pro-Charged Mustang out of Tampa, Florida. He goes, "Dude, you got to talk to Melissa over at Gulf Coast Drive Shaft." And I said, "Oh, okay. You want to, introduce me?" So all of a sudden, I'm on the phone with the owner of Gulf Coast Drive Shaft, and she's telling me, she's like, "Oh, yeah, we do all of Steve Morris's cars, and we do all the drag and drive cars that do like 4,000 horsepower." And I was like, "I'm not playing in that sandbox." I'm like, "Dude, I'm making maybe 645 horse, maybe 650 flywheel, 700 pound-feet of torque." I'm like, I'm nothing compared to that. And what was funny was that she read me the riot act about how small the drive shaft. She goes, "When you go to aluminum, you need to be 3 to 3.5 inches in diameter." I was like, "Oh." And then she says, "Well, what's the wall thickness?" I'm like, "I couldn't tell you." And so I got my mics out and I checked it, and I came back, and she goes, "Okay, well, they're running like one whole stage down in wall thickness that you need to be running." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I said, and it was funny, it was at my comment section on the YouTube channel, bunch of angry gray, and I'm a gray beard myself, but a bunch of angry gray bearded guys going like, "You need to run steel. Steel never fails." And it was funny because I asked her, I said, "Well, should I just go with a steel drive shaft?" And she just reeled. And she's like, "Oh, absolutely not." She goes, "Once you're making over 550 horsepower, don't run a steel drive shaft." And I said, "Really?" And she goes, Steel comes through floors and injures people. Aluminum, She says, what damage was done to the underside of your car when your drive shaft let go? And I said, it took about a thumbnail size chunk of undercoating off of the floor. And she goes, exactly. And she says, and they do, their bread and butter is carbon fiber. So they weave their own carbon fiber drive shafts. So
wow,
that's pro level baseball over there. That's I can't hang with that. And the neat thing about carbon fiber is that when carbon fiber lets go, it explodes. But when it explodes, it just makes a bunch of mess. Fibers go everywhere, it makes a bunch of dust, but nothing's hurt. Nothing mechanically is damaged. You're like, oh, well, that makes sense. Aluminum can wrap around and, can do some damage if you run it down the strip. I broke literally at the launch. I mean, literally, green light, boom. I'm like,
right.
Okay. Whoops. But she was like, we're gonna do a 3-inch drive shaft. I said, okay. And because I was like, well, I don't know if it'll fit, and I got 3-inch exhaust, and I got full exhaust, and blah blah blah. And she's like, we'll do 3-inch. We'll do a 3-inch tube, but with a thicker wall thickness. I said, okay. That thing showed up. Dave, that damn drive shaft showed up almost before I hung up the phone. They were so fast. They were so fast in getting it to me. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I called them up and I'm like, was this someone else's order that you fast-tracked me on? I don't want special treatment. And they go, no, we made it. They're like, we made it 2 days ago. Okay. So like anyone who hears my voice, I'm like, Gulf Coast, Gulf Coast, Gulf Coast, go to Gulf Coast, go to Gulf Coast. Doesn't matter where you are in the country. They'll send it to you and it'll be there in 2 days. I mean, it's like Mosier axles. Mosier will send drag racers like new axles and bearings within a day.
Yep.
These guys are no different. So it was really impressive. Funny thing about it, I've had that drive shaft I've had it out twice since installing it. And it slides in so easy. I sat there and I go, I should have gotten 3.5 inches. I should have gone bigger. I should have gone bigger. And
so you've been able to run it down the quarter mile since you got the drive shaft, right?
Yes.
Okay. What did you end up doing in the car?
Hot garbage.
Oh, really?
Absolutely hot garbage. The best I've run is a 1206 at 118 or 119 miles an hour. And all of us are sitting there looking at this going, okay, what is Kevin doing wrong? Well, and I'm the first person. I will always blame me first. I never like the guy who's like, this stupid, blame whatever part. I always blame me first and go, okay, what am I doing wrong? Well, we start looking at where I'm shifting and we start looking at the RPMs. And that's why I got GoPros everywhere, because I want to see what's happening. The biggest problem is that I'm driving the car like it's a big block Chevy. All right. I want to pretend that it makes all of its power at 7,000 RPM or 6,800 RPM. It doesn't. I have the dyno sheets. At 5,600 RPM, my torque goes, okay, we're done. And at 3,900 pounds, I need to be in my torque curve. So we realized real quickly, we go, okay, the combination's wrong. The 410 gear is not working. And because it's pinning me out. I mean, honestly, I jokingly said, I'm in second gear before I cross 60 feet. That I have no momentum. I'm losing my momentum. And stick shift racing is far less forgiving than an automatic.
Oh yeah. And you got a 5-speed, right?
Yeah. So and by the way, I'm in fourth gear at 1,000 foot, maybe 1050. If I'm really ringing it out, I'm at 1,100 feet. But I'm already in fourth gear. Because, again, the car is tacking its brains out. And I'm like, okay. Now, mind you, okay, so 535 stroker. All right. I got a really nice Of the let me back up. I have the Edelbrock RPM Performer heads that I had Hughes engines go through and do their stage 1 port kit on. So they flow about 331, 338, I think. If my math is, I think that's about right. It's about 330, high 330s. Okay. And I've got a beautifully ported Victor single plane manifold that was ported by Chuck Legase of Engine Masters. A few of you guys might remember that name. Chuck literally had this manifold sitting underneath his workbench, and if you looked in the plenum, the runners, the dividers, you can split your thumb on. They're so sharp. And I'm like, what are you doing with this? He goes, nothing. He goes, you want it? I go, yeah. And he goes, pay for shipping. I'm like, yes, sir. So, but the problem is that the engine, I'm going to say something that'll make Mopar guys mad, is a 440 traditional wedge head is a slightly better small block Chevy head. It really is. All right. It's that same Z configuration, and it has the same constraints as a small block Chevy head. That's why a Hemi head was so superior, and that's why a Max wedge head is so superior. Elevated runners and extended runners and all that kind of stuff. And that's why you see guys who are competitive with a 440 who don't want to go Hemi go, screw it, I'm getting some B1 heads, or I'm getting some big SR Indy heads, or I'm going to do Max wedge. And that makes sense. And it's because of the limitations of the 440 cylinder head. And that's just the nature of the beast. So once I get out of my own mindset going, I have a big block Mopar and I can do whatever I want, I go, no, I need to drive this the way it wants to be driven. And that means I'm shifting it at 5,500, 5,600 and staying, because there's calculators that you can say, okay, well, if I shifted this RPM, it's going to drop me down here because I've entered my gear ratios. And so now Chris Wozniak and I are doing the arithmetic going, okay, well, listen, if I shift at 54, that puts me down at 42. So if I shift at 56, that brings me up to 44. And then, we're trying to figure out just where can I stay in that engine sweet spot where it's making all of its torque. I'm not losing momentum by having to shift too early because I'm already way tacked out. So the next course of action, quite frankly, is I want to go out there with the 410 gears and short shift it just to see what happens. And I know it's going to be a disaster.
Okay.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because I haven't changed the gears.
Right.
But I've already got a lock on a set of brand new, like barely used. They've got like 60 miles on it. A set of 354s. We're gonna swap them in probably after Power Tour because I'm gonna drive the Charger on Power Tour, and then I think that's where I'm gonna be. I think everything about dropping the gear down to just going to a far more I want to say pleasant gear. That's the wrong word, but just change. My whole life, that car has had insane gearing. I had 450. I had 488s on a spool for one.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Because I don't know. I thought I was Ronnie Socks. I was going to ride around just going, and it was when it was a 383. So it's just like, the whole time. Just like, it's like, this car hates me. And I'm abusing it. So then we went to 456s on a locker, and I was like, and I drove it with 456s on a locker for years. And it was a ratcheting locker. So you go around corners like, and so that was fun. But that was with torque flights. And I was like, oh, okay, I could do that. But when I attempted to do Power Tour in the car in 22. And before doing that Power Tour in 22, I changed the gear out from 456s to 410s and I put it on a true track. And I haven't had a problem with it since. and that's been great. But now with a stick shift and having to, and honestly, I'm 47 years old. I've never driven a stick shift car down the drag strip until 3 months ago, and it had always been automatics because I'm like, oh, automatic's faster. Well, it is, and an automatic is far more forgiving for a person with less experience or less talent. And because I lack both, I decided to put a stick shift in there and prove that I'm a clown. So, I mean, it's funny because, like, my friends are like, let's drag race. I'm like, no. They're like, why? I'm like, because I got training wheels on. I'm like, I'm learning how to, this car is so different. It is so different than what I've had for 25 years with a stick shift. Putting a stick shift in that car, it
changed everything.
Yeah. I mean, it completely changed something that I had been in love with my whole life and had a it's like changing a spouse. I mean, it was crazy. It's a totally different machine.
Right.
So
what are your ultimate goals for quarter mile times of that car?
Oh, well, with it currently set up with the wedge motor, I don't want to shoot the parts cannon at it any more than a line lock and changing the rear gear. I don't even want to put a two-step on it, which is a detriment. But I have the line lock that's in a box, but I'm not going to do it yet just because I still want to get my footwork right. But ultimately, I want to run low 11s. I want to be like, well, I have to beat my dad's time, and that's an 11:28. My dad passed away the first week in November, just this last November, and he's the guy who got me into cars. And he had this is kind of an aside, but he had a '72 Pantera with a big block Chevy put in it. He put a big block Chevy in it. So he was a pariah. His Pantera club hated him. But they went out to, did they go to, was it Famos? No. They were up in Bakersfield, and they had a track day. And he says, well, I'm really going to, and we weren't rich. He bought a Pantera in '87 when nobody wanted these cars. All right. That was a poor man's Ferrari. No one wanted a Pantera at the time. And he comes home with this Pantera, and he's like, I don't like, it already had a big block Chevy in it. It had a 427 that someone had done a conversion on. There was a shop out of Laguna Beach, California that was doing these conversions. Anyway, my dad's like, well, a 427 is good, then a 454 has got to be better. So they put together a 468, they throw it in there, and he starts running this 468 big block 454. And no one in his club, they're like, oh, here's Kerry Shaw with this stupid Pantera of his. So he goes up to Bakersfield, and he's put 100 shot of nitrous on it.
Yeah.
And he's like, all these dentists and lawyers, he goes, I'm going to ruin their day. And he goes out there and he runs an 11:28, just rowing the gears as fast as he humanly can. And that was the quarter mile time to beat. My brother, my older brother, I'm the baby of the family. I'm the youngest of three. My older brother, who's, he's the one who really got me into muscle cars. I dragged him into Mopar, even though he had a couple of Mopars. If you asked him 20 years ago about Mopar, he's like, I freaking hate them. Oh, geez, the stupid torsion bars, and I hate all this crap and the offset engines and all. He hated them because he had a '67 Coronet that just beat him at every single thing he tried to do. That car kicked his butt. And he's like, I'm never going to own a Mopar again. And I wanted a Charger. I wanted a '68 Charger. I wanted the bad guy's car from Bullitt. Yeah. But then I saw Dick Landy, and I was like, ooh, I want to do that. So that's what got me into Chargers. And I had, several cars in between there and all this kind of stuff. But the Charger's the one I've had my whole life. And so with the wedge, I want to beat Dad's time. My brother never got to beat Dad's time. And I'm gunning for Dad's time, even if it's an 11:27. I don't care. But with the Hemi motor that I've teased about, I want to match Landy's 1049.
There you go.
And now, mind you, he was mile an hour like a monster. He ran a 10:49 at 154 miles an hour in 1969.
Wow.
And that's, I mean, dude, your hair's on fire at that kind of speed. That's 9-second times.
Yeah.
I don't need a mile an hour to run mid tens. I just need to be Mr. Hot Shoe on it. And
Dang. So I had
that's
a similar story. I had a similar story to that with my
okay.
grandfather. He had a 72 Nova, the 502, and he was like the fastest car in town, and actually running against a Barracuda, like an early 70s Barracuda, and which that car I think now runs high eights, low nines. It's a monster giant blower sticking out of the hood. It's a crazy, crazy car. I don't know a whole lot about it, but he's now the fastest car in town, right? Well, yeah, my grandpa ended up racing him, and he ran a 1070 with that car.
1070, nice.
And so my grandpa's still alive, and he's not doing the best. But I told the story when I was talking to Joe the other day. But he's in the hospital. I think he just had another stroke and not doing well. But he knew that we were going down to Tucson with the Sadie, and had a big shot of nitrous on it. I was ready to freaking put it down, and I knew that I was having another motor built. So I was like, all right, we're just gonna do this. And we went down there, man, and had issues all weekend. And I came back and I called him, and he was like on oxygen. And he like pulls the mask away, and he's like, "How was the race?" I was like, "It was good." He's like, "What'd you run?" And I told him, and we were in the 12s, and he like waited for a minute, and he's like, "My Nova would still get it." So he's still
you ain't
talking.
gonna beat me, boy.
Yeah.
I love it.
So he's actually, my parents are gonna load him up and bring him down to Holly Mo Party, and I don't know if I'm gonna beat his time, but we're gonna hit it with nitrous, and we're gonna just have fun, man, and see what we can do. And bringing that car down there, and I know it's faster than hell, and that's without any nitrous on it at all right now. And can't wait to run it down there.
That's awesome. I'm excited for you. That'll be cool.
So you mentioned the East Coast events. Do you run anything on the West Coast at all?
I typically don't personally get to go out West Coast. I don't think they have a lot of drag and drive events. I know they just started. They brought back Power Tour West. Right. Power Tour started in the West. It started out of Hot Rod's El Segundo building, but the problem was that they just found way better routes out in the South and the Midwest, and it was you got to fish where the fish are, and so right. Yeah, it's just kind of a problem, and a lot of people don't want to drive through New Mexico or Arizona in June, so that's kind of rough.
Even driving in September and at duct tape drags is like, it is just on the verge of breaking into fall. But dude, like, 2 years ago especially, it was in like the mid 90s, like during the day, and it's like it's brutal, and the DA's like 6,000, and it's like the cars all run like shit, and it's windy, and it was not awesome at all. Cars were overheating like crazy, and it's just that, and you can't touch anything. If you leave a wrench on the ground too long, you freaking grab it and it sizzles your hand. It's like it's not a good time. And
right, you have carbureted cars. I mean, if it gets hot enough, you have those carbureted cars. The air gets so hot that basically the barometric pressure thinks it's up in Colorado, and you're like, oh, I'm not jetted at all for this. So it's tough no matter no matter how you slice it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it would be wonderful to do like a Golden State type of power tour,
Sure.
Unfortunately, California has chased all of its drag racing out. So effectively, you're just what you're left doing is really neat scenic roads. But if you could go, from like up north and Hollister, where all the motorcycle routes are and stuff like that, and come down the coastline, and there's a reason people love California. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
You're going to be paying $7 a gallon for gas, but and you're
Right.
going to get pulled over for being too noisy or having tinted windows
Right.
or something else. But
Yeah.
they'll find some reason to squeeze revenue out of you, because that's all California
Sure.
is revenue collection.
Yeah.
But we do, the magazine, our group, we're bringing about 4 cars on Power Tour in June, and then we've already had 2 of our guys compete in Sick Week. Sick at the Green is in 2 weeks, and that's up in Bowling Green. I'll be there just to take pictures, just for one day. But Chris is racing it. I wanted to be Six Smokies, which is all East Tennessee. It starts in Bristol, goes all through the, it's absolutely beautiful route. But I didn't think my car was ready in time, so I was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to sign up. And of course, they fill up so fast, you got to be ready to go. But Chris is doing Six Smokies. We got another one of our guys doing Six Smokies. Then David Kruk, who races the Ultimate Street Car Challenge. David has been on our team for 5 years, and David is halfway through completely rebuilding his 70 Super B. So that thing is going to be bananas. We've got we also need to build him a new 3rd gen Hemi motor, because he's on a bone stock 392, and we have machinations of building something kind of bananas for him. Now that he can handle it, and now that he can actually shove some tire underneath the back of it, we're like, well, now we really got to build a good motor. But he's like, oh, it's actually aspirated, or anyway. But
I had never. I mean, I think the Speed Tech kit is a new thing, right? And I think Speed Tech was acquired by QA1, right?
Yes.
Or maybe the other way. Okay.
No. QA1 picked up Speed Tech, and then they just bought Detroit Speed off of Hawley. And what that has done for QA1 is that has given QA1 effectively a 3-tiered ladder for high performance handling vehicles. Really more optimal for a GM, because it's a body on chassis. The Speed Tech conversion for B and E bodies is extensive, and it's a lot of cutting. It's a lot of fabrication. And for that matter, for a lot of Fords as well. But QA1 has they've grown their catalog in such a sense that, if you're a torsion bar Mopar guy, you want to keep your torsion bars and your leaf springs, they have that. They have those stages. Then you want to go to coilover, like what you're doing, they have that. And then it's like, now I got to, you do the QA1 conversion, but all of a sudden your factory frame rails start to crack and split, like what was happening on David's car, because he was really beating the piss out of it. They go, oh, it's time for you to step up, buddy. That's why we got this. So that's when the Speed Tech chassis came in. Because there's a lot of guys who do coilover conversions, and all they do is just cruise the car, and they never have a problem. Altercation, Riley Motorsports, those guys do Riley Motorsports and of course QA1. They all have these coilover conversions. Work great, comfortable, adjustable shocks. Everything's cherry pie. It's great. But the minute you start getting froggy and wanting to go race, you're like, okay, well, now I'm pushing that chassis to a certain limitation that it was never engineered to do.
Yep. Yeah, and we're talking about Dave Kruk, KRUK.
Yes.
I can't remember his Instagram off the top of my head, but I definitely want to have him on, because you're right. It is that Speed Tech kit. Like, I'd never heard of it before, and the front clip almost looks like a F body setup from like a Camaro, almost like it's a full frame rail setup. And it does require, it's a pretty big commitment. We'll say that
it's extensive. And to the most part, that's the subframe, front and rear subframe kit. They have a full chassis for the B body if you're Buku Bucks.
Wow. and his Super B was already like freaking nice, man. Like,
It was, and it was competitive.
yeah, very
I mean,
competitive. He won the grand champion, right?
yeah,
So he's he's very well known, and his cars everywhere. If you go on the Holly
right.
page and look up anything 70, Super B or Cornet, you're going to see his yellow Super B. So yeah, I really want to talk to that guy. I want to get him
Oh,
on.
definitely.
We're friends through Instagram, and then I think we talked through some US Car Tool stuff, and yeah, I would love to pick his brain on stuff and see where he's
Well,
going with it. But
I'm really glad that you got to hook up with John Passman at US Car Tool, and
yep,
obviously the Super B came with all of that kit, and I was like, I need you to help me out for an article on that because I owe John all of this being installed and showing what the benefits are. And the
yep,
nice thing is that your YouTube channel is doing that already.
yeah,
So effectively, your article and us being digital, we can shove your videos into the article and just go step
cool.
by step. Here's everything you've done.
Okay,
Because US Car Tool, the neatest thing about US Car Tool, the neatest thing about US Car Tool is that John has this mindset, and it's fun to go talk to him. If you go out to North Carolina and hang out with him, by the way, he knows there's a barbecue place right by his shop that is unreal. But really, it's the reason to go see him is to go have
okay,
lunch. But I was gonna say is that John has this mindset where he looks at a car and he goes, "That's a potential problem. I'm gonna go ahead and fix that."
mm-hmm.
And he can identify pinch points, problematic points, and go, I'm gonna laser cut a gusset, and I'm gonna laser cut this brace, and now it's gonna be a structural kit. And people will be like, I've never heard of this braking except for like a couple of TA Challenger racers going, oh yeah, it totally split here, and it was the welds would snap. And you're
Yeah,
like, how did he know this? And he has this mind, he's got this brain that just goes click, click, click. All right, it works.
yep.
So for you and John to hook up and to do that whole stage 3 kit on that car, I'm stoked about.
I took that, and then I get the chance. I've made a post this morning about it. Putting parts on this car that I'd never put on anything else, and that was that upper radiator support piece, which just looks freaking badass, man. I mean, already having the lower piece with all the dimple dies and all that stuff all over it, but doing the upper fit like a dream, right? And then on the 71 CUDA that I have, it's running the similar, 6.4 Hemi, 6-speed, the whole deal. But with that car at the time, I think it was before they made the perimeter frame for the TR60 6-speed. And so I got a big flat piece of 18 gauge. I rolled it over a welding gas cylinder that I had, and got it to fit the shape, and got it to open up the floor enough. And that alone is scary enough because you're having to cut the torsion support out of there. You're having to cut a lot of stuff out of it already. But man, the perimeter frame, and I'm really excited to show everybody with the video next week. It is like so nice, dude. Like it makes me embarrassed to put the shit that I did in the CUDA. Like I want to cut it out and put the perimeter frame in that car because it is like it's just like the subframe connectors where everything is form fit and there's all those funky angles and different wedges that you fit the subframe connectors into. The same exact thing with that transmission tunnel. And I'm going to add some riv nuts to the top of it so it's all accessible and I can pull it off and access the transmission if I need to. But man, it is like a work of art, dude. Absolute work of art. And happy to have it in. And I think, maybe tonight we'll get most of it welded in, and then tomorrow for sure going to be fitting the 6.4 setup with the TR6060 in it and getting it all fit up. So can't wait,
I got
man.
something for you. I got an idea. All right.
You gonna
So
send me that? I mean, you got or what?
well, no.
Elephant?
John had a customer. This is I can't remember when I was out there. I was out there maybe 3 years ago. I want to say 3 years ago. And John had a customer who wanted the modern Demon hood scoop. You know, that real short, wide hood scoop. He wanted that integrated onto a classic hood, and I can't remember what the car was. I want to say it was like a 68 Coronet or something really weird. And so they did 3D scans. They got the little bezel piece. They got a couple things, and he's got that scoop. And I was going to run that scoop on that fiberglass hood that's on your car. I'm pretty decent doing fiberglass, and I was just gonna, you know, because he can mold out a scoop, and then I was gonna cut it and graft it on. And I thought it'd be really cool to have that really slow slung Demon hood scoop if I was gonna run a 3rd gen Hemi in that car. And that was all part of our design that we had with that really low slung scoop on it.
Yeah.
And it's just something different. It's not the same, you know, twin scoops or the pig snout 70 scoop that I hate. I know I'm in the minority. I cannot stand that weird pig snout scoop on the 70 Super Bs.
Can I show you why? Can I show you why I'm going to need that scoop that you're talking about?
Okay.
So I know we don't have a ton of people on, but I want to show you, and I want to show the people that have hung on this long.
Okay.
So let me grab something real quick. Okay?
All right.
Hold just 1 second.
Look at that tire. Don't go around the track, dude. Just go down the corner. You're tucking meat. That's great. That's funny. Black GTX. I saw your question. You're asking, do you have to build a new floor to with the perimeter frame? You're cutting up the floor quite a bit, and you are cutting up the torsion bar support crossmember. So it is a very invasive perimeter. It's a very invasive kit, but it's comprehensive.
It is. Yeah, and I guess what's fortunate or unfortunate, I had to put that new firewall and a new floor in it already, so I'm actually cutting a lot of that stuff out. Yeah, and we're going to have to cut the hood because it's getting a whole bunch of goodies.
The tall ram on it.
Yeah, it's running the Holly high ram on the 6.4. So, and I didn't want to just have like the center kind of cut out a little bit, right? So I have not put the engine in the car, but I got the full Holly complete accessory kit, so it tightens everything up and shrinks the accessories down quite a bit. And then going to be painting the block red, doing the whole cam upgrade and MDS delete and all that kind of stuff on it. So it's going to look completely different than a normal 6.4, but it will sit higher. And so I figured that I would need a scoop of some sort. And I do have like the Ram Charger style scoops, but obviously that doesn't help me out with having anything in the middle.
It doesn't add any height. You need height.
It looks freaking awesome the way that it is.
Yeah. The problem is factory Mopar hoods are very low. They're very flat.
Yeah.
So that's why I got a 68 Hemi Dart scoop on my Charger. Like, you know, I didn't want to put a 6-pack scoop on it. And I was like, I never thought they looked good. I liked the 6-pack scoop on a Coronet. I just didn't. I didn't think the lines of the scoop made sense for the Charger. And then I was like, well, I'm putting a Hemi in it anyway, eventually. And so I was like, well, I'm going to put the big Hemi super stock Dart, you know, the LO23, you know, and BO29 scoop on it. So a big barn door with the stanchions.
Yeah,
and,
I love it.
And it's funny because, you know, I live in a little town here in Tennessee, and I'll pull in my old beat up truck, and these guys are looking at me and they go, "How do I know you?" You know, just car guys in like a Napa or an exhaust shop or something like that. And I was like, "Oh well, you know, I've lived here for since 2015." Blah blah. And they're like, "Nah, dude, I've seen you somewhere." And I go, "Well, I have a handful of cars," and they're like, "You have that brown Charger, don't you?" And I go, "Yeah." Black hood and a big Well, one guy, it was really funny. It was only recently. It was like a week ago. He goes, "You got like a big blown Charger." I go, "It's not blown." I go, "It just has a big hood scoop. Just has a big
Yeah.
tall just a big tall manifold." And he's
Mhm.
like, "That thing is so badass." And I was like, "Well, I appreciate it, but it runs 12s right now."
I made the comment to Joe last week, but I mentioned the one car. There's two cars that I'd love to still have, and a fastback Barracuda, like a '69 Barracuda.
Oh,
I really
okay,
want one with that style hood scoop. I love that hood
right,
scoop on it. And the second one, I know this is kind of a weird one, but I want a '70 Cornet wagon to make a Super B
cool,
wagon out of.
okay.
And man, I had the chance to get one here. My friend Jeremy had one that was like old school California, like faded blue,
Oh,
had the old Raiders sticker on the back window. Like,
funny.
oh, and I waited too long on that and missed out on that one. But yeah, those are the two that I'd still love to get my hands on someday. But
I think my wish list, and I mean, right now I've reduced a lot of. I've reduced down to just two classic cars. I mean, my wife's got an all wheel drive Durango. That's the soccer car, family car. And then I got my beat up '05 Ram that I can't seem to get rid of. I just don't have the heart to do it. I'm like, I can't. Truck's been with me my whole career. I'm like, I don't know why. I've intentionally tried to kill it and it won't die. So, um, but I just got the Charger, and then I've got my '70 Fury convertible that we just
yes,
put the 440 in, and that was
Marsha,
supposed to
right?
be that was what's that?
Marsha, right?
Marsha, yeah. Well,
Yes.
we named it Marsha because it's identical to the car that Mike Brady drove for 2 years on the Brady Bunch. And
Oh,
before he got,
really?
oh yeah, no, that's the car he
Oh, wow.
drove. He drove a '70 Fury convertible, B3 blue two tone blue interior, and it had 383 call outs on the hood. Well, I wasn't going to build a 383. I was going to put a 440 together. So I put a 440 together, and I found out that they're like, well, the call outs are the same as the Coronets. So I just got the 440 call outs for them, and I'm like, that's easy.
No
Um,
kidding.
yeah. So, but what's funny is I was like, well, how do I calm this car down? I mean, I wasn't going to neuter the car, but I didn't want it to have a real raucous chop. I still wanted to kind of lull as I came in, to Dairy Queen or whatever I was driving. And I was talking to the guys at Flowmaster, and I was just kind of laughing about the whole thing. And I'm like, yeah, I want to run, I want to run like your Super 50s, but I want to run them into long resonators. The guy's talking to me, and he goes, "What's the car?" And I said, "It's a '70 Fury." And he goes, "How much room you got underneath that thing?" I go, "Dude, I can land a small airplane on this car." I'm like, it's a World War II aircraft carrier. I don't know what your
Yeah.
problem is." And he laughed and he goes, you need to run our '70s. I go, "I've never even heard of a '70." And he goes, "It's our '50 with a resonator built into it." He goes, "It's the longest muffler you'll ever see in your life." And it is long. And I'm like, I got two of them sitting in my garage. They are long. And I'm like, who the hell buys these things? And he goes, the only guys who buy these things are the dudes you see with like gooseneck trailers towing like 4 or 5 cars behind a Cummins. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, it's the only. He goes, these small, these small car hauler guys who are using
Mhm.
like a Duramax or a Cummins or whatever, dragging these things cross country. He goes, they all run they all run that '70, and I was like, oh, okay. So hopefully I mute the crap. He goes, honestly, it flows like a 50, but you would have thought you ran like two sets of mufflers on it. I was like, okay. So
That's
doing that, and that car, my wife's like, it's gonna be fun, but you're gonna sell it, right? I'm like, yeah, I'll sell it. She's not. I mean, maybe when we go out and take the kids for ice cream or whatever, she'll fall in love with it. She still wants me to sell it.
dude. I kind of troll my girlfriend with it, but I always send her like super beat up minivans or like a beat up camper or something. Well, the other day, I get on Marketplace and I'm searching Plymouth and searching different things and changing my area and whatnot, and I came across a '72 Fury wagon that's on there.
Okay.
If you hop
Yeah.
on Marketplace and change your location to Utah, it's like a gold, and it's actually like freaking mint, dude. It's
Really?
like really, really nice, and it's been
Okay.
sitting, I think, for a long time. Full interiors all there. It's AC car, like just it.
Funny.
Yeah, I sent it to her, and she just like shakes her head on the couch, like not into
There's a
it.
there was a guy on Power Tour with a 70, maybe no, it was 70, 69 or 70 Chrysler Town and Country, which was the Chrysler 300 wagon. And he had a Christmas tree on the roof.
Hmm.
Like, like you just chopped down a Christmas tree. It was, like Christmas
Yeah,
vacation with Chevy Chase. And this car was gold with wood paneling and camel tan interior, and it was almost immaculate. And I looked at him and I said, I can't tell you how much I love this car. And he starts laughing. And I go, no, I'm really serious. I don't know why. Now, I have a sweet spot in my heart for the 69 through 71 Chrysler 300s. And I'll tell you what. Was, you know, 25 years ago when I was working at Mopar Muscle Magazine, the tech editor, a guy named Dave Young, he pulls up in a 70 Chrysler 300H. Do you know the H's at all? It was a Hearst Edition 300.
yep.
TNT 440 torque flight, had some pretty decent gear in it. Had like you could get like a 391 gear, or you could get like a 373 gear. And I laughed at this thing. I was like, this stupid car. I was 25 years old. What did I know? I go, this stupid thing. Look at this dumb car. And he goes, go and drive it. He goes, let's go drive it. I said, okay. He goes, put your foot into it. I said, okay. This is like 2005, 2006. I go out there and I romp on this car. And I'm like, okay, all right. And he goes, I want you to drive this car for a couple of days. I said, all right. And I did. I got to drive it for a couple of days. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with that car. And all of a sudden, I'm like, it's like a big Charger, because it had the hideaway headlights, the wraparound bumper. It's like a big 70 Charger, tail lights, And so now, I don't know if it's because I'm an old man and I got kids, and I'm like, I want a convertible. I take my dog for a ride in the convertible, and the dog's the happiest it's ever been in his life. And I'm like, I want a big Chrysler 300 convertible. And I almost bought one, but it was rotted out from the belt line down. And it was red. It was a center console car, floor shift center console car. Oh, I loved it. Black top, black interior, but it was rotted. It needed everything. And I've seen a few. I had a B5 blue one slip out of my hands. But my wife's like, you already have a big blue convertible. I'm not letting you buy another one. And I was like, but this is a 300. Oh my gosh. I go, white interior, white top, B5 blue. Oh my gosh. And she's like, no, finish the one you got. And I'm like, ugh. It's like, let's stop for ice cream, Mom. No, we have ice cream at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we only have vanilla at home. So anyway, but yeah,
that is hilarious, man.
the cars on my wish list, I think, and I'll let you go. We're already at an hour and a half, but I feel like I've been wearing you out. I would do another 69 Coronet A12 clone. I wouldn't authentic. I would just make it a tire burner. Just, bench seat, 4-speed, just banging the hell out of it. I don't care if it's a 23 spline 4-speed. I just beat the hell out of it with just but basically take the 440 out of the Charger when the Hemi's ready, clean up that 440 a little bit, and make it a 6-pack, and with no vacuum, but all mechanical secondaries, and just go out there and just 1500 CFM, and just burn the tires off of it. Have some fun with that car. It would be the most impractical thing on the planet, but whatever. Paint it refrigerator white in my backyard. I don't care. But just a fun burnout machine that's just good for romping around. And then I really do want that Chrysler 300 convertible. I don't care what color. I don't care if it's Well, everything but F8 green. I know everyone's in love with F8 green right now, but it still looks like stewed spinach to me. I just can't.
Dude, every single car I seem to get my hands on is green. I mean, even these damn fenders on the front of the car are green, right?
They're all green or gold, and I see you have gold doors.
Dude, well, this car, it's so funny because I think it's like 5 different cars are fixing this one car. And so the front fenders are off of 70 Cornet that are F8 green.
It's the Frankenbee.
The other day I went to go fix. Yeah, exactly. The other day I went to go fix the driver's door, and the whole bottom channel was totally rotted out of it. And I called Jeremy up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've got it. I got a '69 GTX door over here." And you can actually look up that color, like that stripe package on the car, and the car looks great, but it doesn't look so great on this, obviously.
Nope.
But yeah, but no, Frankenbee is probably a better name for the car at this point. It's a whole lot of bits and pieces, man.
If you were going to leave it looking patchwork, then I'd say Frankenbee. But since you're going to do a really nice job on it, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, man, you pointed out it's been an hour and a half already. I don't know how, but had a lot of fun doing this. I could talk to you all night, dude. You have so many cool stories, and
I'll come back.
All of it, but
maybe I'll do it on my channel now, and I'll have you come on.
Please do. Would love to.
And then we can get Joe in on it, and he can just tell us how slow we are in the quarter mile.
Oh, I know. He's coming to Mopar. So I don't know. Bringing the Barracuda, he's got that truck that he's got now, total sleeper, but faster than hell. But I think he's gonna possibly bring that out. But either way, he's gonna be there and hanging out, and can't wait, man. It's gonna be such a fun time.
Cool.
So, but we'll tell everybody where they can find you at, man.
Okay, well, MoparConnectionMagazine.com is where the magazine is. We publish new articles every single day, Monday through Friday, entirely subscription free. There's no passwords, no downloads. As long as you've got Wi-Fi signal, I don't care if it's on a phone, a tablet, on your television, or on your work computer when you're supposed to be working. Don't tell your boss. But you can read the magazine for free. We also do a free newsletter at the end of the week that just kind of recaps all the articles. We get a lot of retirees and old magazine guys who go, "Hey, I get your magazine." It's the newsletter. We also do publish. We do try to publish about 2 to 3 videos a month. We are not the dedicated to YouTube content creator like Dave is. We're just a bunch of posers, just recording some of our stuff with phones and GoPros. Dave's actually doing the Lord's work, doing week to week to week. I don't know how you can stand doing that without pulling all your hair out. That's impressive to me. But if we're all former Mopar Magazine guys, Mopar Connection Magazine. I came from Mopar Muscle. Our tech editor, Chris Hawley, came from Mopar Muscle. We have contributors from Chrysler Power Magazine, from Mopar Action, even a couple from Mopar Collector's Guide. All the titles that you have known for decades in print. We're the island of misfit toys. We're all hanging out over at Mopar Connection Magazine. So thanks again for having me on. I really appreciate it. And just talking cars and bench racing. That was a lot of fun.
Love it, man. Yeah, I had to have you on early. And again, thank you so much for trusting me with the Zombie. And it's in good hands, I promise. And we'll see you in a few months, and hopefully be able to take you for a ride on it.
Awesome. That'd be great.
All right. Well, take care, Kevin. And thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Have a good night, guys.
See ya.